Hello class and welcome to MSE 402. It's time now for our Module 5 course lecture on Project Monitor and Control. That phase of the academic project management that encompasses a whole lot of the project. You can see everything from the initiate project all the way down into close project. All of those phases, all those elements are covered under monitoring and controlling. And they're different elements, I'll call it, in different areas that are going to step up and be more predominant for you depending on where you are in your process. So let's just take a peek at exactly what monitoring and controlling from a process group standpoint looks like. So if you jump into your PMBOK into page 93, so grab your PMBOK, page 93, you're going to see the measurement performance domain. And that particular area, that particular domain is what is covered under monitoring and the control phase. The measurement performance domain addresses activities and functions associated with assessing the project's performance and taking appropriate actions to maintain acceptable performance. Ultimately, it's our ability to view exactly what's going on in the project at each stage, at each phase as we're moving through it, and make adjustments, make those pivots, make the modifications as a project manager that would allow you to increase the performance. So now you've seen that we've gotten through the execution phase. So we've finished execution. We're laying the groundwork now for monitoring and controlling, which basically encompasses all of the elements. You will be doing some level of low-level monitoring and controlling at the beginning of the project, and you may be doing heavy monitoring and controlling at the end, depending on I'll call it the psychological inertia of your organization. How important are the individual steps? How critical are they? At a certain point, there's a battle rhythm that happens in the middle of the project execution where things are just moving along. The monitoring and controlling at that level may be very different than the type of monitoring and controlling you do either at the front or the back end of the project. So let's just take a peek at it. The monitoring and controlling process group consists of those processes required to track, review, and orchestrate the progress and performance of the project, along with identification of areas in which changes to the project are required. Changes or tailoring may happen at any point in the project, and your ability to dial up or dial down the importance or the things that need to be made as far as changes becomes critical to your moving forward in a positive direction with the project being successful. So let's just talk about the elements of this. So the primary purpose of the monitor and control phase is to compare and verify deliverables against the project plan and the requirements. Now the monitoring and controlling process oversees all of the tasks and metrics necessary to ensure that the approved and authorized project is within scope, on time, and on budget so that the project proceeds with minimal risks. This process involves comparing actual performance with planned performance. That's that earned value management system. It's tracking earned value and taking corrective actions to yield the desired outcome when significant differences exist. Monitoring and controlling, that process is continually performed throughout the life of the project. So let's just take a peek at a little bit more of the elements associated with it and how those interact with all of the other pieces of your project. So the process of project execution requires project control and project monitoring to understand your current project position. In other words, there's got to be some level of baseline created so that you know if you're ahead or behind schedule, if you're over budget or under budget. You've got to have some level of dashboard and some level of tool or instrument in place that gives you the ability to really understand what's happening, what's actually happening. The project manager monitors the actual results of the project and compares the results to the original plan. For example, scope management is the process of monitoring the project scope's original plan against the current plan. So we are continuing to do that in here. So thinking and planning before acting, identifying and dealing with the possible problems before they occur, and constantly monitoring to determine whether the actions are achieving their desired results is exactly what we refer to as managing a project correctly. Okay? Now, let's just get you some definitions. a little bit of groundwork, and then we're going to go into some details associated with it. So project monitoring, let's break it apart because it's two separate words, two separate tasks, two separate processes. So project monitoring tracks the operational work of the project by asking the question, is the work we are conducting on the project progressing as projected? It lets the project manager and the team know where the project performance is in terms of cost, time, risk, quality, and the performance of the project as it progresses. Project control evaluates the systems and decision-making process to manage the variances between the project plan in terms of scope, cost, and schedule and performance, and the realistic view of the project's execution. It also involves establishing how project positive and negative variances and changes are managed, documented, and communicated with stakeholders. Now, current project performance is one of the best indicators of future performance. Therefore, it is possible to forecast cost and schedule overruns at an early stage in the project using project trend data. If you're burning tremendous amounts of budget up front in an area that you shouldn't be expending that much effort, it is an indication that the project is probably going to overrun, and you're going to see a tremendous amount of increase or growth. So one of the most common trend analysis techniques used on project is what we refer to as the earned value method. The primary method used to evaluate project's performance is also earned value. Earned value is a quantitative project management technique for evaluating project performance and predicting final project results. It's based on comparing the progress and budget of the work planned against the work completed. The measurement for earned value is a combination of schedule and cost management systems, and it's widely used in both industrial, commercial, aerospace, biopharma, businesses of all types. So it's referred to as EVMS, the Earned Value Management System. It relies heavily on a few concepts. The first concept we need to understand is a concept called PV, which is planned value. Planned value, this is the value of work that has been approved to be completed in a given schedule. That's your planned value. And off to the side, you'll see that we have a variety of terms. And it's going to seem like acronym soup as we continue moving forward, but you have PV for planned value, EV is earned value, AC is actual cost, BAC, budget at completion, estimate at completion is EAC. Then you have an estimate to completion, that's your ETC, that's what you've got remaining on the project. And then VAC is the variance at completion. That's going to be a series of what we're going to go into in more detail. But according to the PMBOK guide, planned value is the authorized budget of work to be accomplished for an activity or work breakdown structure component. Now, the second concept of earned value, EV, refers to the fiscal value of the project work that has been completed. That fiscal, value is based on the work that has been completed at the time that it was quoted. Okay, that's EV. Then the third concept is the essential for understanding the EVMS system, that earned value management system, is AC, and that's your actual cost. This expresses the sum of the costs of completing the work in a project. Now, different organizations have different methods for determining this data. I've worked with smaller organizations and we did backhand calculations, or what we refer to as poor man's earned value, and we only looked at a handful of different techniques, different things to keep looking at. And I've also worked in a heavy aerospace environment where we did everything. We covered every element of earned value all the way down to TCIP, total cost. So you're going to see a lot of different flavors. What you need to do is you need to understand that earned value needs to be tailored to a position that makes sense for you and your organization. So let's talk about these three different variances and how we calculate them. Earned value, EV, is the cost of the work actually accomplished so far at this point in time on the program. And that can happen. EV can happen at any point along the way. PV is the planned cost to that date. So the EV that we're pulling at that point in time, we're going to get a PV, which is the planned cost of what it should have been, and then we're going to get an AC, which is the actual cost that the organization can provide at that date. That means I should be able to understand from a cost standpoint, am I on plan? Am I over budget? Am I under budget based on the plan versus my actuals at this point in time? Those are the characteristics for that cost variance. And it's a simple formula. It's CV, which is the cost variance, is your earned value minus your AC. Okay? EV minus AC. Schedule variance, once again, is very simple also. It's your earned value minus your PV, your planned value. Okay, so it's important to note that with schedule variances, this calculation is done in monetary units. So it's done in money. It calculates time into money instead of units like days, weeks, those kind of things. While it might seem strange, there's a reasoning behind it, which we will explain in the next system as I go forward. So here, tracking variances is the essential purpose for using the earned value system. If we can determine the cost and schedule variances and that they're positive, the project is both within budget and ahead of schedule. That gives us an indication as to our performance. And since things are on track in that position, there's no corrective measures that would normally be expected to be taken. Keep doing what you're doing. If you've got a positive position, you've got to be doing something right, and we want you to continue doing that. However, the magnitude of positive variance is large. The project manager should investigate that. So if you're way, way ahead of schedule, way, way ahead of budget, then it may mean that we cooked the books up front, that we didn't calculate things correctly. And you need to understand that. Is this actually a valuable performance metric for us? Are we moving forward in the way that it says we should, or has the data been collected incorrectly? Okay? Now, let's talk about a negative cost variance. So, negative cost variance. It's possible that cost variance would be negative, which is an indication that the project is over budget. That means that we've spent too much money at the point in time we're at. If the schedule variance is negative, it stands to reason that the project is behind schedule. If the magnitude of the negative variances are large, once again, similar to what we saw in the positive, you need to go look at what's causing it, and typically you will have to do corrective actions. It will be impossible for you not to. There's got to be some level of understanding. So it's possible that involvement with the problem should be escalated to a higher level of management in order to resolve the problems, because that problem could be that you can't get your resources on time. It could be that you've run into a technical issue that has stopped you dead. You need to do some root cause analysis. You may have to do corrective action. There's a variety of things that could cause these type of situations. So the only way to understand that is to create a baseline. The project has to have a baseline. If you don't do a baseline, then basically all you're doing is you're just running the project along with no real reference as to where we should be at any point in time. Baselines are important for two reasons. They are essential for helping to monitor and report the progress of the project. And the second reason for using baselines is that they assist in estimating the requirements of cash flows for the essential resources on the project. Are we using our money wisely, or are we overusing our money? Within the baseline plan, the cost should be represented in a time-phased manner, as the manager expects them to be earned. Many times you are given budgets and told that within this time period, you can only burn this much money. If you go above that, we have to get approval. So depending on how your company has tailored earned value and tailored the ability to create those cost bogeys for you, it can determine what you can perform and what you may not be able to get performed within a work package level. So Upper management might be more interested in seeing the schedule variance in terms of dollars, because project managers typically are interested more in the detailed work package in order to better understand and guide their projects. So you have to remember, upper management's going to want to see certain things. You're going to want to see that day-to-day performance. Due to this need for more detailed view, project managers have a more detailed analytical tool to help determine the causes of cost and schedule issues. And you can see that these two that we're talking about over on the side, VAC is variance at completion, and that is the equal, it's created by the BAC, the budget at complete, minus the EAC, okay? And then you've got estimate at complete, the EAC, and the calculation for it, all the way down. There's a variety of different things that you can see that you have control over. You can really understand things. Now, there's two different indexes that are going to be critical for you, CPI and SPI. Cost Performance Index is CPI, okay, and Schedule Performance Index is SPI. Let's just talk quickly about what that means. The Cost Performance Index measures whether a project is on budget. If the measurement is precisely 1.0, then it is precisely on budget. If it is over 1.0, so if it's 1.2, 1.4, that means the project is under budget. That means you're getting more bang for your buck. If the measurement is under 1.0, then the project is over budget. You're not working your resources as effectively as you should be, and it's reflected there. Now let's talk about the SPI side. It's the same format. If your measurement is over 1.0, that means you're ahead of schedule. If it is precisely 1.0, that means you're on schedule. And if you're under 1.0, that means you're behind schedule in what you were supposed to have accomplished in this time period at this point. Okay? Since the chances of our calculations being precisely correct are very slim, there is an acceptable threshold that indicates the progress. The project is on track, generally between 0.9 and 1.2. Those are indications that the project is progressing at what we refer to as a healthy rate. Values above 1.2 or under 0.9 are going to require you to go investigate, figure out what's going on. Now, unfortunately, you may run into a position where a value of about 0.6 is around the point where the project manager and senior management would need to intervene in order to save the project. That's an indication that something is dramatically wrong, and you may need to re-baseline, you may need to reallocate resources, you may need to have changes made that are not currently in place. Now, let's go into forecasting. What does that look like? So senior management, customers, and all the stakeholders are going to be interested in whether or not the project should be completed within budget. They want to know, with what you know right at this moment, what's going to happen at the end of the project. Are we going to be on time? Are we going to be under budget? Or are we going to be over budget? And those are going to be, estimates that are going to be completed by EAC, the estimate cost at completion, and the BAC, the budgeted at completion. Those formulas, okay, let's just kind of walk through what that means. That budgeted at complete, BAC, that's the total budget allocated to the project. That's all the money that you had. That's it, okay? So BAC is generally plotted over time. For example, the periods of reporting, months, weeks, phases, things like that. And BAC is used to compute the estimate at complete. So you have to have a BAC, and you have to know that number to create your EAC number. Now, don't forget, BAC is also used to compute the TCPI, and that's the one I said in heavy organizations. That's the two complete performance index. And TSPI, the two complete schedule performance indicators. Those two numbers give you a how bad is it going to be, or how good is it going to be at the end of the project based upon the information we know now. Okay? Now let's talk about 6 easy steps for using Microsoft Project to calculate earned value. Since your projects in week 3 and 4 start to introduce you into Microsoft Project and all of the different reference information that I've given you, I'm giving you this lecture to kind of walk you through using Microsoft Project because it gives you the ability to see that. Now, you may be working with other types of software programs. This is meant to kind of walk you through the available information you can get. So 6 steps. Insert the resources with their hourly rates in the resource sheet view. So go to the resource sheet view in Microsoft Project and add hourly rates and names of the resources. And resources names can be, if you're working with the construction one, it could be painters, it could be, you know, day laborers, it could be electricians, it could be, you know, plumbers. All of those have different hourly rates. You want to assign the resources to the tasks in the Gantt entry view. Then you save the project as a baseline. You need to create that baseline to start with. Then, as you're moving forward, you record the actual start and finish times of the activities and the actual work to each week within the project plan. That gives you then the ability to review the earned value analysis metric using the EV views. So you can go to views and you will see an entire series of different earned value views, similar to the graph or the graphic that I've got underneath my picture here. You can calculate the SPI and you can calculate the CPI and understand immediately where you're at on a project. Are you ahead or behind schedule? Are you ahead or behind on your costs? Are you overrunning? Are you underrunning? Those are immediate information pieces that make things very easy for you. Now, this resource sheet that we're talking about, view, I've kind of showed it to you below. It allows the project manager or whoever's doing the schedule to calculate the different types of resources for a project. Microsoft Project will track both the work and the material resources. It gives you the ability to dial in both of those, and that includes the people, the resources, the equipment, anything required to accomplish the project tasks can be loaded. As you can see, I've entered resources into this sample that I'm showing you here, where I've added Joe Bob at $40 an hour. Robert Oz is $50 an hour. Sam Space, I put him in as $65 an hour. And Greg Wiz is $55 an hour. That gives you the ability then to understand how many hours they're working because you resource loaded it and how much it costs per hour for those individuals. That will give you a created total cost and a clear understanding of what it's going to cost you to complete your project based on your hourly rates. Now, after you've got a pool of resources that's been established, similar to what I talked about, what we just talked about over there, those typical people. And once you get to the point where you've entered and assigned the resources to the task view in the Gantt entry view, there's many different ways to assign the resources. I need you to understand that those can be completed with the use of not only, I'll call it the resource management toolbar, but you can click on the assign resource icon and that'll pull up another window. There's 3 or 4 different ways to get in to actually putting this information in so that you've got resources assigned to the correct task. You've got to make sure that you're continuing to update this information if information changes. Now, let's go to step 2. Now that we've created step 1, the resources should be assigned before applying earned value to the plan. Microsoft Project will calculate the task costs after all the resources have been assigned. To view the current costs, you will follow the steps I'm going to walk you through now. And you're going to use the task usage and task entry views. So either click on the Gantt chart view, that'll drive over to the Gantt chart, or the task entry view icon in the resource management toolbar. So go to the management resource toolbar, select one of those, select split from the window menu, click on the lower window pane in order to activate it, and you're going to see that everything splits in half, and it gives you the ability to see your Gantt chart on top, and you now have a table below that has all of that information, and you can go in and add your your view information there. You can take your costs, you can update them, you can take your resources, you can update them. It gives you the ability to use that as a cost information window, okay? And if I go to this window here, I'm showing you exactly what it looks like. The top window is still your Gantt chart, okay? You can see it's your Gantt chart. And then that bottom window, the task usage window, down below is the information for a specific cell. So you can see I clicked on remodeling up on the top Gantt chart. It expanded down below and gives you all that information on who's working on what there. It's a quick, easy way to toggle in between data and update it if you need to, and it's a great trick. Now, step 3, we're going to baseline the project plan, and it's important. So we want to save the baseline following these steps. You go to Tools, so select Tools, select Tracking, Save Baseline, and then you're going to be prompted with a dialog box that says to save the baseline, select the corresponding button. Either save the entire project or save the selected tasks, and then click OK. I want you to click on Save the entire project. I want you to baseline the entire project. So if your project is still in process and does not have an estimated baseline or established baseline, you will need to provide one for future tasks. So that's what we're doing. We're creating that baseline point in time, and that way at future points in time we can reach back and we can say, now I want to measure where I'm at now versus the baseline. Am I overrun? Am I underrun? What's going on? So in Microsoft Project 2016, if you're using that version, you go to Project and then Set Baseline. The newer versions make it easier to do that, okay? After completing this baseline, now we're in step 4, the team begins working on the plan. They'll track the actual costs and calculate earned value on the project. That's ultimately what you're doing as you're pulling this information for yourself together in Module 4. The tracking of actual start and actual finish dates and comparing them to the start and finish dates in the baseline will give you that variance that we're talking about, the VAC, the variance that we're talking about for both SPI and CPI. And those are what we refer to as earned value information, okay? Now, step 5, now that we've calculated that, we want you to be able to understand what the earned value table looks like. So to view the earned value table, select the window pane you would like to use to display it, okay? Select View, select Table, and then select More Tables. It's going to open up this whole list, and from here you can click on exactly what it is you want to see, and it'll load that in for you, okay? You can see what we've done here in this view. I've clicked on PV for Plan View, EV for Earned Value. I added AC, SV, CV, EAC, BAC, VAC, that whole example. All of that information I pulled in as new tabs, okay? So insert tab, I can assign it this information. It will automatically pull up all that information for us. You'll be able to slice and dice the format for yourself and be able to understand all of the elements within that. Now, I know we talked about there being a lot of new acronyms, and it's like acronym soup. So let's take a peek at ACWP. That's the actual cost of the work performed. AC, actual cost. Once again, BAC, budget at completion. BCWP, that's the budgeted cost of work performed or the earned value. And then BCWS, that's the budgeted cost of work scheduled or the planned value. And then CV, that's your cost variance. EAC, estimate at completion. SV, that's your schedule variance. And then VAC at the end, which is variance at completion. All of these are different views that you can pull up. All of them will give you different pieces of information on your project performance. Now, the SPI and CPI are the two most common that people will look at. They help the organization really understand the objective performance of the project where you're at this point in time. So SPI and CPI are the two that are the most common for you to use. And remember, SPI is just a measurement of the schedule progress compared to the baseline schedule. CPI is the same thing as SPI, only it's not schedule, it's cost. It's the cost performance index as a measurement of earned value. And remember, SPI is a calculation of cost also. It doesn't give you months, days, times. You can see that as you're looking at the critical path and your Gantt chart view. That'll give you kind of an estimation as to when the completion date will actually be. But SPI is going to give you a financial indication. CPI is going to give you a financial indication also. And anytime you put together status charts, project status charts, they're going to ask you for SPI and CPI as a minimum. Those are the two areas that you will always get asked about. So don't forget that to successfully manage a project, project managers must regularly measure the performance. You can also implement earned value in order to reinforce the need to manage against a baseline project plan. That means that a project which wasn't or hasn't been updated for 3 or 4 weeks will be less accurate than if you do it today. The calculations will be further off. So information that's a day old or on that day is more accurate than information that was created last week. So if you're doing earned value calculations and you're outbriefing that information on a weekly basis or a bi-weekly basis, or every 2 weeks, if you're looking at data that's 2 weeks old, you have to remember that it isn't as accurate as where you actually are right now. So remember, the calculations can be off. That's what I've got lined up for you in Module 5 for our lecture. Earned value is probably one of the most critical elements of project management, and it's probably one of the harder, I'll call it, philosophies to really embrace and utilize for your project evaluations, because upper management's going to want to know 2 immediate views, and they're going to want to know, are you overrunning the project from a schedule and a cost perspective? That's their focus. You as a project manager need to know the details so you can go in and make adjustments and corrections when necessary. Listen, if you've got any problems, issues, or concerns as we continue moving forward, let me know. I want you to have a great week. Bye-bye.